If you've ever wondered why it feels like wealthy people can structure their money so they don't pay income tax while you're stuck paying yours every year, you've probably heard this claim that you can move your income into a spendthrift, irrevocable trust, allocate that income inside the trust, still use the money, and legally make it not taxable. That's often sold as, this is how the rich avoid tax. But if you're being pitched that strategy, you're not being shown what wealthy families do. You're being sold a trust tax scheme that the IRS has been criminally investigating for years, taking down one promoter at a time and leaving the clients holding the bill. And I'm Jasmine DiLucci. I'm a tax attorney, CPA, and enrolled agent. And time again, I've seen taxpayers pay tens of thousands for these tax-free trust structures because they were told this is how the wealthy stop paying income tax. What they actually bought was something that ends in a criminal investigation, an IRS audit, massive tax adjustments, and interest and penalties. And by the end of this video, you'll understand three things. The pitch, okay, what you're told the wealthy are doing. The problem, why the IRS rejects it immediately, and the truth, how wealthy families actually use trusts. So let's start with the pitch, what the promoters claim the rich are doing to avoid taxes. Spendthrift trusts are real legal tools, but promoters take that legitimate structure and they repackage it as something else, a way for you to move income into a trust, still control and spend the money, and make it not taxable. And the sales pitch always leans on wealthy comparison. They'll say things like, this is how rich families structure income, or this is advanced trust planning, or this is how generational wealth avoids tax. And then come the promises. Promise number one, that it's legal. You're told it's legal because it uses technical trust labels like non-grantor, irrevocable, complex, discretionary, spendthrift trust. And then they throw in a random code section at you like IRC 643B, along with some very old and irrelevant cases. Promise number two, control. You're told that nothing about your life truly changes. You still run the business. You still use the money. You still decide spending. The trust owns it on paper, but you remain in practical control. It sounds too good to be true because it is. And promise number three, your tax disappears just like the rich. You're told income can be allocated to corpus or offset with trust deductions or moved through layered trusts or donated to foundations and loaned back to you. So you still use the money, but somehow it's no longer taxable. And you think, I don't understand how this works. You would be correct, because the strategy depends on you not understanding it. It also depends on the person selling it to not understand it. That is the entire sales strategy. You believe that the salesperson believes it's real, which they usually do, because they don't have a clue. But look, I've been studying tax law for over 15 years, so let me translate what you're actually being pitched. There's this technical term we use in the tax law industry for trusts set up like this that create no real economic change and promise a massive income tax reduction based on misreading code sections in court cases. We call it bullshit. Okay, so let's move on to the next section, the problem, also known as why it is bullshit. Problem number one, substance over form, or what I call actual tax law. Okay, substance over form means the IRS doesn't care what you call something, they care what it is. If the paperwork says trust, but you still control the money, use the money, and benefit from the money, the IRS treats it like what it really is, your income. This idea goes back to the Supreme Court in Commissioner versus Court Hold & Co., a 1945 case, and the court said it plainly. The incidence of taxation depends on the substance of a transaction, and Congress reaffirmed this in statute with IRC 77010, the economic substance doctrine. Okay, if your strategy doesn't meaningfully change your economic position and it doesn't have a substantial non-tax purpose, it's not planning, it is illegal. And this is where all of those legal gymnastics steps get flattened. Okay, you can waterfall income, allocate to corpus, donate it to a foundation, loan it back, lease it back, whatever. Okay, the IRS can and does collapse steps and recharacterize the whole thing based on substance, because that is what the tax law actually tells them to do. Okay, now problem number two. Irrevocable trusts don't save income tax, and they often increase it. So even if we pretend for a second that the trust is valid and respected as a separate taxpayer, here's what promoters conveniently forget to tell you. Okay, irrevocable trusts hit the highest tax rates fast, like way faster than individuals. So when someone says, just move the income into a non-grantor irrevocable trust, what they're really saying is, put the income into a tax bucket that gets hit with the highest rates the moment it accumulates. Because trusts have compressed brackets, meaning they reach the top marginal rates at very low income levels compared to an individual. So if the trust isn't legitimately distributing income to beneficiaries under real subchapter J rules, the trust is the one paying the tax, and it's paying it at the worst rate the quickest. And that's why this pitch is so backwards, okay? It is marketed like a tax reducer, but in reality, it often either doesn't eliminate tax at all, it just shifts it to a trust, or it increases your tax. So either way, the tax-free trust story doesn't hold up because the tax system was literally designed to stop trusts from being used as permanent tax parking lots without income tax disadvantages. And problem number 3. IRC 643 doesn't exclude income from taxation. This is the part they count on you not understanding, okay? Because if you did understand it, you wouldn't buy the scheme. IRC 643 is not a tax exemption. It doesn't make income disappear. It is part of the trust rules that help determine DNI, distributable net income, which is basically how the tax system decides what income gets carried out to beneficiaries when a trust makes distributions. So when a promoter tells you, we'll allocate it to corpus, or we'll call it an extraordinary dividend, and therefore it's not taxable, that is a gimmick, because corpus is a trust accounting concept. Principal versus income, and DNI is a distribution tax concept, and neither is the same as taxable income. Now that you know what the rich do not do, which is they don't pay to sign up for tax fraud and risk their entire net worth gambling with the IRS, here's what they actually do with irrevocable trusts. Wealthy families do use trusts, but they do not eliminate income tax. They use them for estate planning, multi-generational control, asset protection, beneficiary protection with real spendthrift clauses, special needs management, wealth management, all of which require something promoters avoid: real substance and change in control. Because if there's no economic change when ownership is transferred to an irrevocable trust, then you are treated as if you did not transfer them to the irrevocable trust, both for asset protection under state law and for estate planning with the IRS. So when someone tells you this is how the rich avoid income tax, you're not seeing wealthy planning. You're seeing an illegal income tax shelter that the IRS already understands and is actively shutting down time and time again, because wealthy families don't eliminate income tax with trusts, and neither can you. And if you want real tax law explained clearly from a tax attorney, then subscribe.